Alright, hi gang. Today we're looking at lesson 15.6 in our book, which has to do with how fractions and decimals are equivalent. So every fraction has an equivalent decimal. Okay, so that's what we're going to take a look today. How can I either say that this is a decimal or a fraction or a mixed number? So right here my directions are telling me to write a mixed number for point T and point R. So this is just a line plot right here, and I'm looking to see where point T is on my line here. So point T is at this dot. That's the first thing I have to find. Second thing I have to find is how little does each slash, what does each slash mark represent? So I see that 3.3 is here with a big slash, and 3.4 is here. So now I have to find out how much is each one of these little slashes in between worth. Well, if this is like 3.30, this is going to be worth 0.2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So each little hash is going to be worth 2 hundredths. Okay, so T is going to be worth 3.3 for sure. Let me choose a different color here. So it's going to be 0.32468. So it's going to be 3.38. Okay? My directions tell me that I need to write a mixed number. So I just wrote a decimal. So now let's look at how do I make that decimal into a mixed number. Well, I'm in the hundredths place, right? So if I'm in the hundredths place, it's going to be, my whole is going to be out of 100. So 38 is the part. So I'm going to have that on top. Now, if I think back to my rules of divisibility and writing my fraction in simplest form, right? I know that both of these end in an even number, so that should be divisible by 2. So 38 divided by 2 is 19, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. So my mixed number for point T, located right here, is going to be 3 and 19/50. So this is my final answer. Okay, let's look at point R to go over that idea of how we got that answer again. So point R is located, it looks like, right at 3.5. So my decimal would be 3.5. Is that what my question is asking me though? No, it's asking me for a mixed number. So I have a 5 in the tenths place. So what's my denominator going to be? Well, it's going to be out of 10 because it's in the tenths place. Is 5/10 in simplest form? Sure isn't. 5 is the greatest common factor, so I'm going to divide by 5. I'm going to get 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 3.5. Okay? And this is one that we should be this is a very common fraction and decimal equivalency that we should be familiar with. I should know if I see 3 1/2 written as a fraction that is equivalent to 3.5 or 3 5/10. So these 3.5 and 3.5 or 3 5/10 or 3.5, these are, both of these numbers mean exactly the same. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing now. We've got a number line, and we're going to identify a decimal and a fraction or a mixed number for each point. So let's find, first of all, we have to find point X on our line, right? So here's point X right here, and it looks like it's at 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1 whole. So it looks like I'm at 0.9 for my decimal. And then what's my fraction going to be for that? Well, my fraction again, my decimal is in the tenths place, then my fraction is going to be out of 10. How close to 1 am I? Well, I'm 9/10 of the way there, so it's going to be 9. So my decimal is 0.9, and my fraction is 9/10. Let's find point W this time. Let's see, so I've got 0.5, and then I've got 0.6. So point W is going to be 6/10. So again, then in a fraction, if I'm in the tenths place value right here, right? So if I'm in the tenths place value, that means I'm going to be out of 10. It's going to be 6. 6/10. Does that have a common factor? Is there a greatest common factor between 6 and 10? Heck yeah, there is. So we're going to divide those by 2. I'm going to end up with 3 for my numerator. If I divide 10 by 2, I'm going to get 5. So my decimal for point W is going to be 6/10. My fraction is going to be 3/5. Alright, now we're going to do some U-try problems. So we've got 3 U-try problems that you are going to do, and then I'll be back to check your answers. Alright, let's check out our answers here. Point Z, which is located right here, should have ended up with, as a decimal, 1 8/10. And as a fraction, I also have 1 8/10, which, if I write that in simplest form, would be reduced to 1 4/5. Let's see, point V is located way down here. It's my smallest value because it's closest to 0, and it's at 1/10. So I'd write that as a decimal point of 1, and then my fraction would also be my numerator of 1 over my denominator of 10. Point Y is located right here, and it looks like it in decimal format would be 1 3/10. Also as a fraction, it's also 1 3/10. I cannot reduce that into anything simpler. And I also added in our place value chart. So remember that we've got our decimal point, the tenths, hundredths, and thousandths place value when we're writing our decimals. Alright, let's take a look at our next set of problems here. I'm writing a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form. So again, I've got 0.63. So if I have 0.63, that means my fraction is going to be out of 100. So I have 63 boxes out of 100 filled in. Am I going to be able to reduce 63 to 63 and 100 have any common factors? Nope. So 63 hundredths is its simplest form. Alright, let's take a look at my next one. I've got 1 and 0.55 is going to be again in the hundredth spot. So I'm going to have out of 100. 55 is my numerator. Rules of divisibility tell me that I'm going to have common factor here. I know that it can at least be divisible by 5, so I'm going to divide 55 by 5, rewrite my whole number. So I'm going to have 55 divided by 5 is 11. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So in simplest form, I have 1 11/20. Right, let's take a look at my next one. This one's a little bit more, could be more tricky. I've got decimal point 305. So what is my fraction going to be out of this time? If I'm in the thousandth place value, it's going to be out of 1,000. How many out of 1,000 are filled in? 305. Again, these are big numbers, but I know since it ends in a 5, I know that 50s are at least divisible by 5. So if I take 305 divided by 5, I'm going to end up with 61. And 1,000 divided by 5 is going to be 200. And that's all I'm going to be able to do with that. And I also have to remember to rewrite my whole number. So my final answer is going to be, I'll rewrite the whole thing, 2 and 61 200. Ba-boom. Okay. So if this place value chart helps you, you can use that for the U-try example. So you're going to try these two, and I'll be back on to check your answers. Alright, let's check our answers. 8/10. In simplest form, well, first I came up with 8/10, and then in simplest form that's going to be 4/5. So I divided by my greatest common factor of 2 to come up with 4/5. 1 2/10. First wrote it as 1 2/10, and then my greatest common factor was 2. So once I divided by 2, I ended up with 1 1/5 as my mixed number in simplest form. Okay, so again, point of today's lesson is I have a decimal that has an equivalent fraction. A decimal that has an equivalent fraction. Right, so we will, tomorrow, we will work on our bell work at school, and we will see you then. Have a good one.